Hey everybody, my name's Ryan.
I'm Nate.
And we're going to be showing you how to throw a Frisbee backhand for our Ultimate Frisbee unit. You're going to start with your grip kind of like a handshake, but instead of shaking a hand, you're going to be on the Frisbee. Also, you can kind of think of it like holding a tray of food as you're trying to keep it parallel to the ground the whole time and you're holding it on the edge. The specific grip I can show you here, you want to keep your thumb on the inside top ring of the Frisbee, and then your bottom fingers, you want all four underneath the Frisbee with the ring and pinky on the inside rim and your middle finger and your ring finger extended outwards. Now that we have the grip down and we know how to hold the Frisbee, let's get into how to actually throw it. As I mentioned earlier, the most important part is keeping your arm and the Frisbee parallel to the ground throughout the whole motion. When throwing the Frisbee, you want to think about throwing it as a full fluid motion, not one part of your body taking over. Don't try to overly arm it or wrist, because then you're going to get an inaccurate throw. But you got to think of it as 3 levers of motion, from your shoulder going out to your elbow extending and your wrist flicking. Your shoulder goes first, and then to your elbow extending, and then your wrist flick is the end of the motion. I'm going to walk through a couple practice throws so you can see what those will look like in full speed. Another tip to keep in mind while you're throwing the Frisbee is at the end of the release point, you should be pointing at your partner, and that'll ensure the Frisbee flies straight and on target. Let's talk about the stance that you should take while throwing the Frisbee. You're going to want to assume an athletic stance with knees slightly bent and feet shoulder width apart. In Ultimate Frisbee, a lot of times you're going to have a defender on you, otherwise known as a marker. In order to get past the defender, you're not going to be able to take any steps, but you can pivot on your foot and fake them out with throws. Since we were learning backhand throw, you are going to want to step with your dominant foot. If you're throwing with your right hand, you're going to step with your right foot to the side and execute your throw. That'll look something like this if you have a defender on you. Let's talk about some common mistakes that we see while throwing the Frisbee. The first mistake that we can see is the angle of the Frisbee on release. If the Frisbee is angled down, Frisbee is going down. If it's going up, you'll get a loft throw where it'll kind of go straight up and kind of, as you've seen probably before, it'll slowly float back down. A second mistake that we will see commonly with throwing Frisbees is trying to muscle it too much and not worrying so much about form. If they just straight throw it as hard as they can, you'll find that you can throw it not as far as you can when you throw it slower with proper technique, meaning keeping the Frisbee 90 degrees, or keeping a 90-degree angle in your arms and keeping the Frisbee in your arm parallel to the ground. The second thing that you might see is a wobbling Frisbee, which means there's not enough wrist flick at the end to ensure the Frisbee is spinning. Throwing a Frisbee is difficult and can be frustrating at times. But by maintaining a growth mindset, we can ensure that we don't get too hard on ourselves. And as long as we're getting better and having fun, we're winning. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next upload.